The 1990s, decade that gave us Britpop, dial-up internet and what many people remember as the golden age of comedy. We're talking about shows like Father Ted, The Royal Family and I'm Alan Partridge. For every classic that stood the test of time, there was another show that, well, didn't. I recently asked you, the viewers, to name the British shows that you found the least funny. The results are in and it's time to revisit some of these forgotten, or perhaps better left forgotten, 1990s television misfires. The title, Not With a Bang, came from the last line of T.S. Eliot's poem The Hollow Men, not with a bang, but a whimper, suggesting that the end of civilization won't come from a dramatic, violent catastrophe, but rather from a gradual, anticlimactic process of spiritual and cultural decay. That decay is the theme of the sitcom Not With a Bang, that starts with the accidental release of a hormone that causes aging in human. It spreads almost immediately, annihilating virtually all human life on Earth, leaving little piles of ash where people used to be. It's not a very cheery start for a Tony Milan and Mike Walling's sitcom that started as a Radio 4 play. Regular viewers of the channel may recognise the authors as being responsible for a number of underwhelming sitcoms, including A Small Problem in 1987 that was accused of denigrating short people. After the dangerous hormone has dissipated, there emerge just 4 survivors who meet a year later. They are Brian, who tries to take charge of things, Colin, who likes to still go to the pub, and the married couple, Graham and Janet, who realise that they need to start repopulating the world. The dark premise is grim subject matter. It does not sound like the overture to a riotously funny series. Critics noted that the show's sets felt unlived in and fake, contributing to a poor viewing experience. Additionally, the dialogue was criticised for not being clever. The acting was at times considered to be over the top. The show also had a somewhat formulaic feel, with a lot of lengthy 2-person conversations. One critic from the Daily Mirror explicitly stated that the show was awful and that the main characters were 4 wimps, the nerdish characters who sit around misunderstanding each other each week. Having a small cast need not have been a problem if some transient characters were introduced, other survivors. They could cross their paths but then move on in their own personal quest to find something better to give the plots more interest. The humour, which was meant to be droll, failed to connect with viewers and the series was cancelled after only 7 episodes. I'll leave the conclusion of this unloved sitcom to the words of Adam Beckwith of Adam's Nostalgic Memories. For most of the episodes, Brian and Colin pondered if there really is still anyone else out there. But it seems that the viewers weren't, and that was it. After Central Television had success with The Upper Hand, their remake of the American sitcom Who's the Boss, they thought they would have another try with Married for Life, a remake of the American series Married with Children. In Married with Children, the Bundys were considered to be the most outrageous family on TV until The Simpsons came along, and in Married for Life they were reimagined as the Butlers. So, Married for Life has made its way onto this list as well, but unlike the 7-series run of The Upper Hand, Married for Life only managed 7 episodes. That cannot be called a success, so what went wrong and how did it earn its place as one of the least funny sitcoms? The British version used scripts that were essentially localised versions of the Married with Children episodes from the late 1980s. By 1996, these jokes and situations were a decade old and felt out of touch with a British audience. Furthermore, we'd already seen the originals on ITV in the late 1980s and early 1990s, and on Sky One in the late 1990s. The raw, abrasive and often cynical humour of Married with Children was very American in its style. The humour revolved around American blue-collar family life and its specific absurdities. The British adaptation, despite attempts to anglicise the scripts, couldn't capture that same feel. The humour simply didn't translate well. The show starred the popular British comedian Russ Abbott as Ted Butler the Al Bundy role. While Abbott was a well-known figure, his comedic style was more rooted in light-hearted sketch comedy. Perhaps he felt he needed a change, but this wasn't the right direction. His style didn't mesh with the cynical, miserly character of Ted, making the performance feel forced and unnatural. The humour came across as more whingy than genuinely droll or cutting. Married for Life failed to establish its own unique identity. It was seen by audiences and critics as a pale imitation of the original rather than a show that stood out on its own. It turned out to be a commercial and ratings disaster. Seeing familiar episodes with a new cast was odd and the humour failed to connect with viewers, making the show disappointing compared to the original. Chris Barrie starred as Gary Prince, a former international football star turned entrepreneur, in A Prince Among Men. It was written by Tony Milan and Mike Walling, who make regular appearances in my videos on controversial and unfunny sitcoms. The series follows the day-to-day life of the astonishingly self-centred football legend Prince. His arrogance and lack of humility make him a difficult boss and husband. He often gets into scrapes or upsets people due to his ego. His intellectually superior German wife Liesel and his business partners try to keep him in line. The biggest reason for the show's failure was its main character, Gary Prince. Unlike Chris Barrie's more successful characters like the neurotic and pathetic Arnold Rimmer in Red Dwarf or the well-intentioned but disastrously incompetent Gordon Brittas, Gary Prince was simply an obnoxious prick, as one reviewer put it. He was constantly belittling those around him, and the show lacked the clever writing or underlying pathos that made his other similarly flawed characters so engaging. The show lacked a cohesive plot or a sense of direction. The episodes were often described as aimless, with no major problem to solve or long-term arc to engage the audience. It was just a series of events where Gary Prince would be unpleasant to people, with the audience expected to laugh at his arrogance. This quickly became tedious and repetitive. Some critics felt that Barrie didn't produce the quality of performance that viewers had come to expect from him, considering his success in Red Dwarf and the Brittas Empire. The comedy was supposed to come from his absurd schemes and how his superiority backfires on him, but without the underlying cleverness that would have made the character more endearing. There's no major growth or development for Gary, making the series feel static and unrewarding for viewers who tuned in for more than just premise. The humour relied heavily on low-effort jokes about technology going wrong or Chris Barrie simply pulling a face. The script's also seen as lacking in originality, with the comedy coming from a familiar man is a clown trope that was common in sitcoms of the era, but without any fresh twist. A Prince Among Men was something of a flop with viewers and critics. The show ran for 2 series on BBC One, which were shown in prime time during the week before the last few episodes of Series 2 were quietly relegated to Sunday afternoons. In summary, A Prince Among Men failed because it centred on a deeply unpleasant character without the necessary wit, heart or narrative drive to make his unlikability comedic. This series focuses on Gordon Muir, whose wife went off with the younger man a year ago, so he's left holding the baby, his son Daniel. He's helped and hindered by his loutish brother Rob. Then he has to cope with his intrusive neighbour Laura, who insists on giving him advice. It has all the elements to make a messy, chaotic slapstick comedy. The show's premise was a familiar one. A single man is unexpectedly left to raise a baby. Critics noted that the show felt unoriginal and derivative, using recycled plots and jokes that had been seen in other, more successful productions. A syndicated feature in many provincial newspapers previewed the series with the headline, "Soccer Mad Nick playing a football hater," focusing on Nick Hancock's casting and the premise of the series. It was more of a promotional review rather than critical, but it gave a sense of ITV's hopes for the show's relatability. Attempting to blend a serious and a difficult subject, a wife leaving her husband and their baby, with light-hearted sitcom humour created a tonal inconsistency that made it difficult for audiences to engage. The humour often felt forced and out of place given the sad reality of the character's situation. The show was criticised for its cheap-looking production. Audiences reported noticing wobbly sets and a general lack of polish, which made the show look less professional and more like a low-budget stage play. The writing was widely considered to be poor, which led to a significant drop in quality and audience interest. The humour was seen as predictable, and the characters, while potentially endearing, were not given funny or interesting things to do. Nick Hancock even got roasted about his role in holding the baby when he was host of the BBC comedy sports quiz show They Think It's All Over. Team captain, ex-footballer Gary Lineker mocked Hancock about his sitcom in retaliation for criticism of his adverts for Walker's Crisps. It seems the final nail in the coffin for the series was Nick Hancock leaving after Series 1, being replaced by Hugh Bonneville for Series 2. Low audience ratings resulted in the series being pulled from transmission halfway through the second series, something practically unheard of on British television. 2 more episodes were shown in August 1998 before the series was subsequently cancelled. 2 further episodes were produced but never broadcast. The show is described as long forgotten and is not available on DVD. The most common modern memory of it seems to be an early appearance by David Tennant. It was later remade in the United States for Fox Television in 1998. The US version lasted only 1 season. And that's our countdown of your choice of the least funny British sitcoms from the 1990s. It just goes to show that while some shows become national treasures, others are destined to be the answer to a tricky pub quiz question. A massive thank you to everyone who voted and helped put this list together. Your honest and often brutal opinions were exactly what we needed. Let me know which of these you surprisingly liked, or which one you think is a travesty not to have made the list, and I'll see you in the comments.